Hey y'all, welcome back and thanks for stopping by. My name is Stephanie. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I made this adorable scarecrow wreath to help dress up your front porch this fall. For the base of this project, I used one of the smaller willow wreaths and one of the larger willow wreaths from Dollar Tree and a roll of burlap that I picked up at Walmart. I used the smaller willow wreath to make the scarecrow's head. To create the face of the scarecrow, I used the wreath as a guide to cut out a square piece of burlap just big enough to wrap around the front of the wreath. To give the scarecrow a face, I went to Google and found a cute face that I liked and printed it out to use as a stencil. I then taped it down to a cutting mat and centered the burlap on top. I then pulled the burlap as tight as possible and secured it into place using tape so that it wouldn't move around while I painted the face on. Once the stencil and burlap were in place, I took Waverly chalk paint in the color ink and a small detail brush and painted over all the dark details on the face except the nose. I want to take this time to thank y'all for stopping by and spending a small part of your day with me. I appreciate y'all so much. I wouldn't be able to do what I love and share it with y'all if it wasn't for each and every one of y'all. So thank you from the very bottom of my heart. And if you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Click that button and ring the bell so you won't miss any of the fun videos coming up. Also, today's video is part of a fall collaboration with my dear friend Amanda over at 6 Kids and a Glue Gun. Y'all, this girl is so talented and one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. So please consider going over and checking out her channel and seeing what fall goodies she cooked up for y'all today. I'll leave a link to her channel in the description box below. I painted the nose with Waverly chalk paint in the color pumpkin and used Waverly chalk paint in the color ink again for the 3 stitches on the nose. Next, I took Waverly chalk paint in the color ivory and painted on the white parts of the eyes. I do want to mention that I did give all the colors on the face 2 pretty thick coats of paint so that it would show up better on the burlap. Once the paint was completely dry, I centered the face on the small wreath form and used hot glue to glue it in place. Then I flipped the wreath over and used a generous amount of hot glue to wrap the burlap around the wreath form. To give the scarecrow some hair, I used one of the grass skirts from Dollar Tree. Now, if you can't find one of these skirts, you can use some of the Dollar Tree raffia that they have out right now and it'll work the same. I took about 4 pieces of grass off the skirt and hot glued it into place on the side of the scarecrow's head. I repeated this process 3 times on each side of the head so that there would be 3 layers of hair on each side of his hat. If you do decide to recreate this project, please be very mindful of the hot glue in your fingers. This glue is extremely hot and will burn your fingers, so please wear some finger protectors or use something other than your fingers to hold the grass into place. For the bangs, I hot glued a line of grass all along the top of the head in a single layer, filling in any spots that looked a little sparse. Once I had all the hair glued into place, I took a pair of scissors and cut it to the length I thought looked best. I tried to get the sides as even as possible, but wasn't too concerned about it being perfect because after all, this is a scarecrow and it's not supposed to be perfect. To make the hat, I took a paper plate, turned it upside down, and traced around it with a marker onto some more burlap and then cut it out. Once I had the base of the hat cut out, I placed it on top of the head and cut off any excess that was hanging over the back of the wreath form so that it would lay flat against the door. Then I positioned it where I wanted it to fit on the scarecrow's head and hot glued it into place. I also took this time to shape it to about how I wanted it to look. To make the top of the hat, I took some more burlap and cut it down to make it as tall as I wanted it. Then I rolled it up and used hot glue to close it to make a cylinder shape. Then I used more hot glue to glue it to the top of the head and shaped it how I wanted it. Once I was happy with the look and the shape of the hat, I took some more of the grass from the skirt, folded it in half, and used a generous amount of hot glue to glue it inside the hat so that it would look full and fluffy. After the hat was full, I took some scissors and cut it down to give it a more even and cleaner look. Once the head was complete, it was time to assemble the body. I took the larger willow wreath form and 3 pieces of wire and worked the wire through the willow branches on the back side of the wreath. Then I flipped the head over and worked the wires through the bottom side of the smaller willow wreath and twisted them together. After I had the 2 wreaths wired together, I went back in and put a generous amount of hot glue between the head and body on both the front and back sides to help secure them together. I also went back in and cut off all the wire that was sticking out so that it wouldn't scratch the door. To make the arms, I took more burlap and rolled it up to the size I wanted the arms, then I cut it off the roll. Once I had the piece cut, I folded it in half and cut it so that I would have 2 somewhat similar arm shapes. I then took more grass from the skirt, hot glued it to one side of the burlap and rolled it up and glued it closed to make the arm. I then repeated the same process using the other piece of burlap to make the other arm. I wasn't too worried about the arms being a perfect match because it's not meant to be perfect. Once both arms were complete, I took some scissors and trimmed down the grass, again trying to get them somewhat even. To attach the arms to the scarecrow, I used a little bit of hot glue to close the top of the arms by folding the burlap in on itself and used a generous amount of hot glue to attach the arms to the sides of the larger wreath. I just eyeballed the placement of the arms so that they would be somewhat even. Once the arms were in place, it was time to arrange the florals on the bottom of the larger wreath. I wanted this wreath to look as natural as possible, so I used an assortment of dried florals that I picked up at TJ Maxx. That included some wheat stalks, grains, and other natural dried pieces, and some pumpkins, along with some florals that I picked up at Walmart that included some cotton, some corn husks that came on a fall bouquet, and some pampas grass. To make the arrangement, I played around with all the florals until I was happy with the way the wreath looked. While I was making this arrangement, I tried to mirror the sides as much as possible. So whatever I did to the left side, I would also do on the right. That way it would have a more balanced look. After I was happy with the way the floral arrangement looked, I made a simple bow using some burlap ribbon and orange gingham ribbon from Dollar Tree. I then used a generous amount of hot glue to glue the bow tie in place right under his head to help cover up the seam where the two wreaths were wired together and to finish off this adorable little scarecrow. Here's a quick little sneak peek at what Amanda has for you today over on her channel. These projects all turned out so beautiful. I'm telling y'all, she is super talented. Be sure to follow the link in the description box below and check her out. Here's how the little scarecrow looks hanging on my door. I absolutely love him and I can't wait to put him out this fall as a welcome to our guest. Let me know what you think about this little scarecrow in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this project, please give it a big thumbs up. It really does help out my channel. And don't forget to subscribe because I have a lot of fun projects on the way. You can also find me over on Instagram and I'll leave that info in the description box below. I'll see y'all next time.